Good morning, everyone. This is Andrew Kimmons with Kimmons Toolworks. If you haven't noticed, I'm in a little bit of a different location in here. I thought that I would do something that's been requested a number of times for a really long time that I just haven't done. And I mean, I guess there's kind of reasons for it, but today I'm going to do a video of turning a handle start to finish. Close to finish anyway, because I'll have to go on to a different lathe to finish the end cap, but this will be close to finished. I mean, you'll understand the process after this and the weird little specialty tooling and stuff it takes to do it. This is my first one of the day, so super fresh. You'll see me at my worst for the most part. Usually after I've done a few, I get in a rhythm and I'm just flying through them, and there's kind of a sweet spot where I tend to not exceed doing about, well, it just depends on the day, anywhere from 6 to 10 at a time. Because I mean, there's some days where I'll hit 4 and it's like I'll start zoning out, getting spacey, and it's okay, I gotta pull the plug on it, do something else for a while, come back to doing this, that way it's fresh. Because I don't know what it is, if it's zoning out or like a complacency thing or what, I have no idea, but I can just tell when I hit that point that I'm gonna start screwing up. And mistakes are pretty costly when you have a lot invested time-wise into a product. Like, for example, by the time it goes to the lathe to be finished by hand, I'm already in that state right here, which means the blanks have been dried. They've been kind of kiln dried. I remove the rest of the moisture before they go in the resin. They've been stabilized. The end caps have been installed, which for those of you that know, the end caps have a tang on them as well, a grooved tang, and those are epoxied in place to where they're ridiculously strong. To this day, knock on wood, I've never had a single end cap failure. I know that's been a lot of people wonder, like, is that just a cap like stuck on there with some glue? No, I wouldn't do that. That wouldn't work. That would be stupid. They would pop off like all the time. But to this day, I have been doing the end caps for close to 4 years. I have not had one single cap failure. Now, I've had tools come back to be refurbished that the customer wanted refurbished or to put different handles on them, and they have been beat to hell. Like claw hammer, like you can't even tell this was a cap. It's just mushroomed out, beat to oblivion, but never a failure. I have never had a failure. I have had a handle failure one time in a burl, but that's to be expected. That's why I kind of try and push people to, if you want to go exotic, go with Cocobolo, and if you want to go with a domestic base type material, curly maple, the stabilized curly maple is the way to go, because those are the two that I'll warranty. If somebody wants to go with a burl or an unstable material, I can't warranty those. There's no way I can do that, especially when we get into Amboina burls and stuff like that that are $100 a piece just for the material. I get it, they're pretty, they're artistic, but from a structural standpoint, I always have to advise against it. If people want it, cool. If you experience a handle failure with that, I'm not paying for the material. Whereas Cocobolo, stabilized curly maple, I know how strong these materials are because these are time tested, and I have tested these beyond a shadow of a doubt that I know I could have 1,000,000 out there and probably never experience a handle failure. Not that I wouldn't if I didn't screen the material, but there's a lot of material that doesn't make it to be a handle at all. Like with some of the material that I was milling, I got thousands of curly maple blanks, thousands and thousands of them. I think I spent 2 weeks just milling the blanks so that I would just have this, unlimited amount. That beautiful material, excellent material. But out of that, the amount that I actually decided were handle quality, handle grade, out of that I mean, it had to have been close to 1,000. I maybe got like 120, maybe 150 that were, you know, the kind of grade that I would put out there as far as a handle. Because stability matters too. Like, you look at a lot of materials that are beautiful, they have crazy figure, knots, all kinds of things. And a lot of those have cracks too and stuff like that. And you look at them and they're artistic and they're beautiful, but they're not stable. So stability always has to be first and foremost to me, unless the customer specifically recommends or lets me know, like, hey, I want something crazy. Let's go with something crazy and unstable. They're just for hand use, whatever. Then by all means, we'll go for it. But once again, that's not something I can actually warranty. Anyway, I could probably stand here babbling all day. Had a weird experience yesterday. I might as well share it since it's literally in the video right now. Weirdest thing ever. You know, I'm one of those people that has weird things happen to them. I don't know why. Like, some people go their whole life and they don't experience weird things. I experience weird things and I don't understand them. But this happened yesterday. I kid you not. This blew my mind. I still can't. I just saw it in the camera and I was like, I gotta tell this story because it makes no freaking sense. It makes no sense, especially to like the scientifically minded, you know, kind of more rigid, skeptical type mentality. I mean, that's just kind of what I am, where it's like, I'll believe things I see for the most part. Anyway, I have had this cross for years. I bought it years ago, primarily because, I mean, it was pretty and it's silver and I like silver. It's a pretty metal. And I lost it last year snow blowing around the neighborhood, because I normally will snow blow like the alley and do some other people's driveways. I have older retired people that live around me, so I'll do their driveways and their sidewalks and stuff like that. And I distinctly remember I was outside, put my jackets on, got ready, put my gloves on. I remember this was hanging there. Went and did all my snow blowing, came back for fuel, fueled up, didn't go in the house, went back again, finished. It took like 2 or 3 hours, something like that. Came back, took my jackets off, this was gone. So I assumed I lost it in the snow somewhere. It popped off. Whatever. You know, sucks, but is what it is. You know, it's like an ounce of silver, so whatever, $30, or it's not the biggest loss ever. But I go in yesterday, I was switching over some laundry and was taking whites upstairs, set them on the bed to fold after I got done with everything today. On my way up the stairs, this freaking thing was sitting on top of my staircase, sitting on right in the middle of my staircase. I was like, I walk up and down those stairs countless times a day and have for the last year, and so does my daughter. I just go in there and there it is, sitting on top of my staircase. So answer me that. I have no idea how or why things like that work, but reality is spooky. Anyway, thought that was a odd enough story to share. And for those of you who never experience anything weird like that, you know, I kind of envy you, because I don't really have a mental compartment to put that in. I just forever unexplained. I don't know. So anyway, back to the actual topic at hand, because I could get off and go down all kinds of weird rabbit holes with crap that makes no sense all day long, but we're here to turn a handle. So first thing I'm going to do is let everybody know I took the front part of the dust collector off here so that you could see a little bit better. Normally I have it come all the way up to here and it fish mouths onto it. That way I don't have a lot of debris, but you won't be able to see it with that in the way. I do have a dedicated little dust collector that goes only to this little lathe, and it takes the air outside. The air and the dust all goes outside. That way, if I'm turning a material that I have allergies to, like Patagonian rosewood, there's a reason why I make nothing in Patagonian rosewood anymore. I have the most horrendous allergic reactions to even a few grains of that dust. I mean, it's taken me forever to get the majority of that dust out of this shop, and it's why I started doing that. And I had to change the filter bags for the dust collector, the bin that all of it goes, just everything. I just had to throw away like everything, because even the tiniest little bit, like the sprinkle of dust gets in my nose, my lymph nodes swell up. Like my lymph nodes in my neck will puff up, and I'll get this horrible headache and like pressure behind my eyes, and I'll immediately get a sinus infection. And even if I get a few grains of that dust, that will happen, and I'll have that for like a week. So my lymph nodes will be swollen up for at least a week, and it's bad. So I don't deal with Patagonian rosewood anymore. I have some other woods that match that if you have a Patagonian rosewood set and would like to, match something else. But at the end of the day, there are some sacrifices I just can't make, and my overall, health and well-being is one of those where it's like, I can't like kill myself to make a set of tools. So, and I have a ton of Patagonian rosewood, and like blanks, like Patagonian rose, beautiful blanks, like dozens of them, and I just can't do anything with them. So if anybody wants them, I can probably sell them to you for like half the price of what you could, because they're doing no good here. I mean, I'd like to get something out of them, but if you want a bunch of really awesome Patagonian rosewood blanks for something, and you're able to turn it and don't have an allergy to it, let me know. Send me an email at andrew@kimmonshandtools.com, and we'll work out a deal, and I can box those suckers up and get them the hell out of here. That way I never have to see them or think about them again. Plus it makes some room in my box over there. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I could do them for like half the price of what it costs, or less, just whatever. If I get a few bucks out of them, that'd be cool. But let's go ahead and turn this. For this portion of the process, I just use a little benchtop lathe, because it's kind of dumb. I don't see any reason to have a giant lathe to do this. I don't turn bowls. I don't really turn big things. I can pretty much turn the vast majority of the things I need on this little lathe. And I actually do a fair amount of wood turning. I've adapted that lathe, that's a metal lathe, to get them to this point, basically, because I can cut that taper exact on a metal lathe. Exact, dead on. All I have to do is set everything up, and you're turning dials, everything down to a thousandth of an inch or less, and you end up with like this, where the sockets fit flawlessly, all of them the same, perfect gap right there, and that gap exists in order for compression. And it's just an utterly perfect fit every single time. It's hard to get them there. It takes a lot of tinkering to get it exactly right. But then I turned this portion of it to the diameter that the first portion has to be. Let me grab one and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay. This will probably make more sense this way. This dimension is turned to this dimension plus about 10 thousandths, and this dimension is turned to this dimension plus about 20 thousandths. And then we have our length is exact, and we have the taper cut for the socket. I leave this a little bit big back here because a lot of wood lathes will have a little bit of run out. They're not precision like metal lathes are. So I have to get everything synced with the cap, and I like to have some play, some wiggle room. Plus you have to have some extra material for the jaws to bite onto. And so this is basically the starting point. From here, I need a shoulder dimension from here to there, which would be, you'll see me measure it from here to there. And this dimension I'll take while turning as well. And I'll also take this dimension while I'm setting everything up. And those are really the only dimensions I need, other than I will have to match this radius, which is super easy to do. I actually don't even measure this radius. I've done it, I measure here, but I don't actually measure this radius because it is what it is to make it flush with that cap. This is the measurement that it has to be. And I've eyeballed so many thousands of these, you just don't even have to. You'll see a specialty tool for this part, which I'm gonna use for the sake of the video, but I barely even need that anymore. Like with the radius, once you've done so many of them, I can usually eyeball it plus or minus a few thousandths, but once I've done a few and I'm nice and warmed up. That's why I'm doing this video fresh, right off the bat. Haven't done one yet today. And when you see me stop to walk away, it's because I'm sharpening a tool. So, because it'll be pointing down, you won't be able to see. So, I know I keep looking at the wrong side of here. I'm used to the camera lens being over there. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get this sucker mounted up and make it happen. The first thing I like to do is make sure I don't have any funky run out here. That looks good. A little bit of run out back here, that's just fine, because we can adjust that. But if I do end up having some funky run out, I have a dial indicator right there, a magnetic dial indicator, and you can see I have 1,000th or so of run out. That's just fine. We can live with that. That ultimately is not going to make any difference when you're dealing with wood and you're in the plus or minus a couple thousandths. I mean, you're doing just fine. So I don't worry about that too much. With all the dimensions, I try and keep all the dimensions within a couple thousandths. Now, what I like to do is keep that on there, because that's gonna let me adjust this kind of on the fly while I'm going. And I like to kind of tighten it up and let it spin into it a little bit, because it seems to stay straighter that way for whatever reason. I don't know why. But I'm going to go ahead and kick on the dust collector and we will turn this handle. I thought I would stop the video really quick to point something out. This is this is the benefit to having experience doing something and how you become efficient doing things. I think a lot of people don't think about, like, people really underestimate the degree of magnitude that experience and practice at something matters, because this dimension that we just saw right here, that requires that this part right here has to be 740 thousandths at the finish, which means I need to have a few extra thousandths to sand. So normally my target here is 745 thousandths. That way I get 5 thousandths left to sand. And without checking it, I eyeballed it and we were at 747. So by eye, I was 2 thousandths off. That's about the thickness of a hair. And of the last, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 handles that I've turned in the last, toward the end of yesterday and today, I only misestimated that twice. So 3/4 of the time I'm within 2 or 3 thousandths by eye with a lot of those measurements. And stuff like that is just something that can't be taught. I don't know how. It seems like, you know, how can you just look at something and know how big it is by the thickness of a hair? I honestly don't know. I don't know how that works that way, but 3/4 of the time I'm within a couple, 2, 3 thousandths, and 95% of the time or more I'm within 5 thousandths just by eye. So, but I do always check things still, because you have to. I want consistency. So this leaves us a little bit to play with. So technically it's 2 thousandths over, so I'll take about 2 thousandths off of it, because I like to keep everything as exact as possible, and we'll keep rolling ahead. I just wanted to point that out, because I know I've described that to people before, and it's like, I don't know why it's that way. Repetition, doing the same thing a lot. I mean, you can get so in tune with a process that you can visually see, you know, a couple thousandths of an inch. It's possible. Just like the cross showing up. I have no idea how, but it just works that way. See what I'm talking about? This dimension right here is supposed to be 1 inch and 20 thousandths at the end, with a couple extra 2 or 3 thousandths for sanding, but the final dimension needs to be 1 inch and 20 thousandths. And we hit 1 inch, 20 thousandths plus 2 extra thousandths for sanding. So like, I don't know. I'm just pointing that out, that like you can literally tune and train your eye to that extent. And I think anybody can do it. It's just a matter of doing things a lot repetitiously. But to the extent to which you can train your eye, I think the vast majority of people have barely even begun to breach the surface of how much you can physically train the human eye and brain. Because, and I do, I think it's something anybody can do with practice. But I don't know. Definitely weird. All right, that was the first portion of the hand turning part. We still have to get the end cap in sync with the handle and actually make that straight, because this is the part where if you're a few thousandths off between, like, we have a little bit of wiggle room. This is oversized. This is really oversized. But if we don't get this and this in sync, the same radius, if this has run out, it doesn't look good. So this is something that has taken some special tooling. I know a lot of people know that I have to make some weird stuff sometimes, but just exactly, you know, how would you do that? How would you can't use jaws on a lathe. Well, I have a solution. Maybe your solution's different, but this was my solution to it. Let me show you how this part's done. I have a little taper tool that matches this taper, and it goes in the lathe chuck like so. I don't have to crank it down because this is a hardened piece of steel and it will destroy those jaws, so I don't crank it down, just snug. And then we have this little guy that I made a very long time ago, and this thing needs refurbished every so often, but I've been using this for years. It's basically a piece of 6061 T6 aluminum machined with this bevel to match the end cap bevel, and it's aluminum so that it doesn't scratch this, because if I make this out of stainless, this is made of stainless, and that's not good. So aluminum, and what I did is I turned this MT2 taper with a little nub to fit inside of a bearing. So this taper is pressed inside of a bearing, and then the bearing is pressed inside of this little fixture, and then this thing goes in the tailstock like so, fits in there like that, and then this thing fits the taper like that. This has to be relatively clean, otherwise it will have wobble in it. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Like, it has to be perfectly in sync, which means this thing is only so accurate, you know? So I have to look for the right position to where everything actually rotates the same, because a lot of times it's a little bit out, and we can't have that. So, like, just little adjustments to make sure it's right. There, that looks like it's in sync. And we have a little bit of wobble here, which is just fine because this is oversized. That's why this is still oversized by like 30 thousandths, is because this and that have to come together. So whatever, as long as the cap is turning perfectly round, this is going to be turning perfectly round after we machine it. And up here, there's no wobble up close here. So it's like just a wobble in the back more so. Up here it's immeasurable. So it ends up coming out to be a straight handle. You'll see. This is all just practice and experience with this crap. I'm not going to turn the dust collector on unless it starts going up my nose or something, but I'll turn it on for sanding. But this is the portion where you bring everything in sync with the end cap. And since this is my own homemade scraper, Kimmons Toolworks 1/2-inch scraper, it can survive cutting stainless. So like, if I get into the stainless a little bit, that's okay. You can hear it hitting the stainless a little, that won't hurt anything. This actually, I've turned metal with this, I've turned stainless with this, I've turned aluminum with it. I mean, it obviously dulls it faster than wood, but that's why I make a lot of my own custom tools, is because you're not really going to go buy a tool off the shelf that does that. You're going to take about 3 thousandths off here to get that in sync. We'll take a look at this. Ooh, yeah, that's perfect. All right, now I'm gonna have to go ahead and turn the dust collector on because I don't want to breathe the sand and dust. And there we have Kimmons Toolworks socket tang handle. Now from here it would go on the other lathe, and I finished this to give it a nice satin look, like it's like a satin polish sort of look, because right now it's just rough, like a rough, it's like about 180 grit finish on it now, and so we'll get it closer to looking polished than that. About how this looks, how the socket looks. I like the socket and the cap to match because they're the same exact type of stainless. From here though, this would go into a holding fixture. I don't mean to flip off the camera, I guess I could be nicer. This would go into a holding fixture where I machine a slot in it that the blade will fit into. Then it goes on that, like so. And once the hand or the blades are complete, big old tang down in there, and you'd have a chisel. But I know a lot of people have really wanted to see some of the process videos and stuff like that, and there's some of them that I can do, and some of them, like the heat treating stuff, a lot of that stuff I don't really want to share, because that's the whole reason why I have employment at all. I think is it's kind of weird to be able to make a 63 Rockwell blade flat and straight, and that's something that took a lot of specialty equipment and tinkering, and I mean it's different. It's a very different process than anything I'm familiar with. So there's aspects I don't really want to give away, because I don't want some company in China finding a cheap way to do that and mass produce it and start cranking them out by the millions, and then, you know, then I would be out of work, or I'd have to be stepping it up, which I can always step it up. I have plenty of tricks up my non-existent sleeves. But I was gonna mention too, I had an idea a couple of years ago. Mind you, it just takes a couple years to get anything from, you know, a concept to actually happening. But a couple of years ago, I built some garden tools. Actually, one that I probably should patent. If I was smart, I would, but I have no desire to really do that. It's something that's unique, and I have been using it for a few years, and it cut my, like, it used to take me all weekend to weed garden beds, and this tool cut it down to like 3 or 4 hours. Like, it's significant, and it's weird. It's its own thing. But anyway, I'm thinking about trying to position myself to start making some garden tools and stuff like that before spring, and maybe even come out with this thing that I'm sure I'll do a video on it roughly before spring or soon, because it's cool, and I think it would cut back on a lot of people's time if you do weeding in garden beds and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, that's just something I've been tinkering with. I hope this video was, you know, at all informative or educational, or help people understand, you know, parts of the process that maybe were mysterious at one point or another. But anyway, when I say handmade, I mean handmade. That's the questions that I've gotten more than any throughout my entire time of doing this for the last 4 years is, where do you buy your handles? Where do you buy your blades? Where do you buy those sockets? Where do you, like, I don't, I make them. And I mean, those are questions I've probably been asked many hundreds of times a piece, and it was every day for a while. Where are you buying your handles? Like, I mean, when I say handmade, I mean handmade. I don't mean like I outsource every single piece to somebody else, and then I assemble them and say handmade and put a 500% markup on them. That's not my business model. It's, I make everything for those of you who don't know, and then they end up really cool and really pretty. Like, let me go grab one really quick. This one in particular, I just finished up yesterday for an order. It'll be in a video later, but for an order that's actually going to Australia. And they end up looking for a paring chisel. There's a paring chisel, 1-inch extra long paring chisel. This will be going out today along with a couple others that are going to Australia. So, you know, this is part of the process of getting a tool from there to here. And the end caps end up, by the time they're finished, end up looking more like we know them. This is still dirty, but, and Cocobolo, 1-inch A2. Awesome stuff. If you want big extra long paring chisels like this, send me an email, andrew@kimmonshandtools.com, and I can do these in singles, pairs, sets, literally all the way up to a 24-piece set from 16th inch to 2-inch. Just about anything you could want. Also the standard size ones, which are 2-inch shorter. I can make short ones, butt chisels, that are even 2 inches shorter than that. Technically my sizing is short, which is 2-inch, standard, which is roughly 4-inch. It's like 4 1/4 for the big ones, 4 for the smaller ones. Then there's the long, which is 6-inch, and then what everybody calls the paring chisel is the extra long, which is 8-inch. So you can go short, standard, long, extra long. This is extra long, aka paring chisel. So I've had a number of people want skews in the long, which is a 6-inch, and I guess that must be a thing that's a sweet spot for skews for some people. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. I know this video's been almost an hour, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and this was somewhat enlightening. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.